Hi, folks, and welcome to the seventh episode of the Vitor Vicente podcast. Today, I'm joined by Conor Corcoran, the founder of Collective Fitness and an expert in various sports and rehabilitation process. His business, as well as his popularity on the internet, is growing massively, and it's well deserved. After all, Conor started his own venture right in the middle of COVID. Stay around if you want to listen insights on bravery and discipline. And I hope you enjoyed this episode and click on the like button below. It would also be great if you could subscribe to my channel. And I see you in a sec. Hi, Connor. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me. Great intro.
I'm very pleased to have you here. I think we have a lot to talk, and the audience will make a lot from listen to our chat. So I'm really pleased, and I was looking forward for this conversation for some time. Yeah, I'm satisfied that you enjoyed the intro. But if you don't mind, can you expand more on yourself, on your business? Because I think there is plenty to be said, and there's no better person than you.
Yes, of course. Well, I suppose, firstly, thank you for having me. I know this has been something that has been in the pipeline for a while, and we've been chatting about it and stuff. So it's great to finally get it over the line and get kind of started with it and stuff. So I guess it depends. It depends how much detail you want. I could bore you for the full hour with all of the details, but I'll try and give you the basic version. But in a nutshell, yeah. So I'm obviously Conor, and I am the co-founder of Collective Fitness. And what we do is we specialize in delivering kind of bespoke corporate wellness programs here, especially in Dublin. And we also work with individuals and helping them get fit and stuff like that. But it's been a journey, to say the least, to get to this point. It's been a lot of trial and error, a lot of finding our feet. I think we're 3 or 4 years in business now, so it's only now really that it's getting a bit of momentum. I liken it to the I think you might have heard this, the snowball effect. I've probably said this to you about 100 times before, where it's kind of, you try everything, and then once you get a little bit of momentum, it kind of spirals then and goes from there. But I guess, as the intro said, this was a business founded during COVID, so a time of a lot of uncertainty. No one really knew what the world held in general, let alone in our own industry. So if you look at it from a fitness industry perspective, you had gyms were closing down, everyone was doing home workouts. No one really knew what the lay of the land was going to be going forward. And we kind of looked at it and thought, okay, there's an opportunity here to deliver some element of digital fitness, which is why we got the Collective Fitness app. So we started working with individuals and providing online training programs for people, and me personally doing online rehabilitation programs for people with injuries and stuff. And with good success. Like there's a team of us there. There's myself, there's James, my business partner, and Jack, my other business partner. Both of the lads are ex-professional rugby players. And they each have unique skill sets. James being obviously in a nutrition background, and Jack being a professional rugby player, knowing what it is to build team culture and stuff as well, which is really important. So it started with the three of us working with these individuals. So rather than, let's say, individuals signing up and working with one coach, they worked with our entire team. So the collective, if you will. And as I said, look, it got great results. People did that, but ultimately we knew that if we wanted to grow a business out of this, individuals come and go all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like there's always a time span on that. And I say to people as well, it's kind of the business we're in the sense that if I'm still working with someone for a prolonged period of time, let's say a year or 2 years or 6 months or whatever, I feel that I'm not doing a good job for them, because ultimately they should be at the stage where they can do this by themselves. And for me, I become the springboard for them. So like, as an example, think of it like a driving instructor. If you're going to get your 12 lessons with your driving instructor, you don't need them sitting in the car with you every time you go to the shop. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same thing for us. So we looked at opportunities and how to develop this further. and we were going to open a gym space, which again is a great thing to do if that's what you're into. But we're very ambitious, and it's not to knock the gym thing, but we don't want to be limited by just one location.
Yeah.
Which is why we kind of adapted and saw the opportunity within companies and said, okay, these guys want to get staff back into the office. They want to offer something a little bit different to their team. Likewise, in the residential developments, they want to make their properties a bit more lucrative for people, so that people want to be there. And it's a shift from working with the individual to developing a culture of wellness and well-being. So we thought, okay, why don't we create packages for companies where we can go in and work with these people, but work with the staff on an individual basis? Because if you work, I believe, by affecting the micro level, so working with the individuals, it will have a positive impact on the macro level, which is the wider group, and ultimately the company. So it's developing that going forward. So that's taken a bit of time. Like, it's taken, as I said, 3 or 4 years now to really fine tune it and build it to where we want it to be. I guess to the point where we feel confident, and me personally feeling confident to be going out and selling it to people then as well, you know. Being able to deliver on our promise of being able to help that, and to help people get fit and healthy, and ultimately develop a positive health culture as well within these places, you know. So it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting journey, and there are elements of face-to-face or job or work done in person, but a lot done on the internet or on the digital sphere. So I would say, I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but you operate on a hybrid model, if we can say that.
Yes.
So between some work done directly with individuals and some other done with corporations, with the property developers, with the business investors. So there is different sectors all together in one unit. How do you balance all that? Because I presume, as far as I know, you are mostly someone about working with individuals on a face-to-face basis, where your core will be the gym, will be looking after people's physique, but there is some or a big fraction of it which is administration and business relations and all that. How do you balance all that in one single job?
It's tough. It's tough. No, I tell you what, I've got a great team of people around me. In the sense, as I said, James and Jack are brilliant. We've got a coach with us, Aoife. She's fantastic. So exactly as you touched on, it's a hybrid model, where, let's say, we do have a weekly schedule for each company we work with. So that might be delivering classes, i.e. a yoga class, Pilates class, HIIT classes and stuff. But we do rely on the app a lot to provide that extra quality of service, because again, it comes back to the accountability and support, and the training model is good. Like everything, it has its strengths and weaknesses, and this is training in general, in the sense that typically you work with a trainer in person, you see them for your session during the week, and then you might not talk to them for the rest of the week. Whereas we want to be able to say, okay, we'll do this stuff with you in person, i.e. in the class, but we'll support you outside of it, because it's that accountability and support that makes a huge difference. But in terms of balancing it, for me personally, the first 3 years have been crazy, in a good way. But it's just, yourself, when you're an entrepreneur trying to grow your business, it's marketing, it's sales, it's building the system, it's doing your social media. So I have to have all these different hats. But now, as I said at the start, that I have this team around me, I've basically kind of gone, and I've heard this on a podcast previously, where I'm just playing to our strengths. So in our business, my strength is probably the technical side of it. Obviously the rehab side of it, but technical as in from an online platform and building the systems and developing the back end. Aoife's strength would be delivering the classes. James's strength would be giving accountability, and Jack's strength would be kind of putting it all together in a team environment. So it's really important that we're all playing our part in the overall shape of what our business is. So that's the easy part of balancing it. I guess it's only in the last 6 months that we've been very structured on that. Me personally, in terms of I'm a mad enthusiast about writing things down on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
not to overwhelm myself with a lot of stuff during the day, but I have this thing where I have a diary, I have my calendar on my phone, so I can see kind of what my schedule is. But then my diary, I just have 6 things that I want to achieve during that day, and it could be a big task and it could be a small task, and it's just writing those 6 things down. Okay, and if I do that Monday through to Sunday, okay, and I just have a little checkbox next to it. So if I complete the task, I tick, I tick, I tick, I tick, and at the end of the week, I review it and I apply what I call like a traffic light system. So I've got a green highlighter, an orange highlighter, and a red highlighter. Okay, so if I do the task, I mark it off in green. So if I complete it, if I've put it off to the following week or something didn't work for it, I give it an orange. And if I missed the task and I didn't do it, I give it a red. And it's like a little mindset game with myself at the end of the week, where I try to see a full green across the week. But what I try to do is you hear a lot of people talking about like their purpose and their drive and what makes them kind of tick and what gets them going. For me, it's and again, it's only a realization, but everyone has these fantastic goals. Okay, and I can apply it to fitness here because it's an easy thing to visualize. But everyone has these fantastic goals. They want to lose weight, they want to put on a bit of muscle, they want to run a marathon, whatever it is. But I would always say to people, it's great to have your vision, it's great to have your direction and your kind of why you're doing things and where you want to go. That's really important. Clarity is everything. Yeah. But then we also need to take a couple of steps back, and kind of pause for a second and say to ourselves, okay, what is going to allow ourselves to connect with that a little bit more? Okay, and to do that, it means pretty much writing down your tasks and getting 1% better every day. So if you think of it and you say, okay, 1% better every day, what does that look like? We feel sometimes as if we try and achieve these goals that we need to realistically work as hard as we can to get to certain levels. So we look at the goal and we say, okay, I want to achieve a weight loss goal of 5 kilos in the space of 90 days or 10 kilos in the space of 90 days. And I say, okay, what does that look like on a daily basis? And how can you get 1% better on a daily basis than where you are now? Doesn't mean you have to overhaul everything. So let's say from a food perspective, it might be just change one meal. From an exercise perspective, it might be like, okay, move your body just once a day, doesn't matter what you're doing yet, and build your consistent habits and build a consistency as you go through, because you can always speed that up by changing things up a little bit, but it's actually the action of doing it that makes a difference. So bringing it back to me, it's the tasks. They might only be small tasks. It might be like, for example, it might be schedule the podcast for Saturday or schedule it for Friday or Sunday or whatever day. And that's a task done. It doesn't have to be, okay, write out the script, do this, whatever. That can come down the line, but it's just, okay, tick, 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 tick. And it's about building momentum. And then as you build momentum, then you start to feel a bit more kind of, I suppose, engaged, driven, positive about the situation. And eventually things will happen, because I do believe that people don't take enough action.
Yeah, I was about to say that one of the good things of having a schedule or a calendar with a few things you want to do and achieve is the positive emotion you receive from taking things off the list. Okay, this is done. It's completed. Most times things work out okay, if not pretty well, and you feel fantastic about it. And then when you face the next step, you are boosted. So this is like,
of course,
you being fed along the way with positive elements, and then you just build yourself like a monster, because there are so many things that I would call small wins on the route to the great victory. So I think you can relate to that. So, and then you can also learn that it doesn't make sense to be lazy or to avoid certain situations, because you feel terrible not to do those. So all you don't want to do is in the evening looking at your list and say, hey, I missed that part. There is this item 5 that I didn't do it, and I still need to do it next day. So you want to avoid that, and then you build this character that it's all about accomplishing what you want and not avoiding things that you don't want, and it becomes just natural. It just becomes the person you are, and the more you do that, the more it might become spontaneous, and all of a sudden it's just your normality. Now, for others, it might sound weird because they're not used to that, but it's just other people's comments, and you shouldn't take that much in consideration. Yeah,
correct, and it's not. Look, it's a lifestyle that's not. You'd swear I'm like a big CEO of a company. I'm not. I'm just a normal person. But it's a lifestyle that's probably yeah. Fingers crossed. But it's a lifestyle that's probably not for everyone. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that like my alarm goes off at 5:15 every morning. I'm normally up and in the car by kind of 6:20 past 6. The days are long. They could be 10-hour days. Do you know what I mean? So
can you take us through your morning routine? By the way, now that you started, that was one of my questions. So you said you wake up every day at 5:15. You get on the car.
Alarm goes off about depending on the day. Sometimes it's harder to wake up. Yeah. So normally I'd wake up, and I like to kind of get up around the same time every day to try and have the same structure. Even on the weekends, I'll allow myself to have a little bit of a sleep if I need it. But I have this thing in my head that because I wake up so early during the week, that if I lie in on the weekends, like say till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or whatever it is, I feel like the day is wasted because typically I would have most of my work done by then on a Monday to Friday schedule. So I feel like I've lost a lot of time. So waking up early doesn't necessarily it's not a bad thing for me. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose to go back to it, look, alarm would go off at about 5:15. I would wake up, obviously shower, all that kind of stuff. Then I would be in the car driving to the Punnet Health store, which is where James, my business partner, he owns that. I would go in there, grab a coffee, be chatting with him. So we would always do like a little bit of a recap in terms of what went well this week, what went well for the day, what we're trying to achieve, all that kind of stuff. So it's almost like a mini meeting. We would go through that, and then I would come out, I'd be in my car, and that's when I'd start writing down my tasks of the 6 things that I want to achieve during that day. And I would write all of them down, and I'm kind of big into positive affirmations and all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm applying the 1% better every day thing to me as well, in the sense that obviously the more of this thing, kind of affirmations and action taking and all that kind of stuff that you do, the better results that you will get. I only start by writing like 2 or 3 things down to put myself in a positive frame of mind for the day. So I do that. That would take maybe 10-15 minutes. I'd be onto the online platform, then the Collective Fitness app. So I'd be communicating within the group on that. Any messages from clients that would have come in, I would be messaging them just to make sure that they're okay and everything, all those questions are answered. And that's when the day would start. So for me, then I would do a lot of in-person, face-to-face sessions, let's say between 7:30 in the morning up until about lunchtime. Okay, so it's the first kind of half of the day. When I finish that, then I would go into my own individual training and just time for myself, because that's obviously important. And then the evening time would be a lot of admin, a lot of getting back to more questions on the app and developing more programs for people. And that's when the marketing head and all that stuff kind of comes onto it. So it's nothing fancy. It works for me. It works for me. I'll probably change it again in about 3 or 4 months' time. But it suits.
Yeah, I think that's part of the deal, like knowing how to get on with the process and understanding that you are not fully aware of what is a journey on the very beginning, and you will learn as you go along the way, and you will develop, you will progress, you will expand your skills, you will bump into some mistakes and get the lessons out of it, and not be afraid of the path. I think that's very important. This might look like vain words, but when you are on the field, they aren't vain words. They are really, really meaningful. So, of course, one thing that I was very curious, and it's something that we were talking, I think, 10 minutes ago. So you started your business or Collective Fitness during COVID. So I think most people out there are freaking out. And if I'll be talking to the previous me, maybe like 5 years ago, I would be one of them. I'll be freaking out because there's a lot of risk of starting a new venture in the middle of the what I call the lockdown madness. But you went ahead, things work out pretty well. How did you deal with uncertainty, with all the concerns of not knowing what is going to happen tomorrow, next week, and how the future looks like? And I think those who are now starting a business themselves can get some lessons from your own experience. How do you deal with the uncertainty out of the pandemic?
It was very difficult. Very difficult. Because again, I remember, I can recall it quite well. I remember sitting down on the couch and seeing the television when they were talking about this lockdown. And then they announced I think it was a 5-phase approach to reopening and all that kind of stuff. And this was early part of the year, and they said that the gyms were going to open in August. So there was about a 6-month period, half a year, where it was like, oh God, what are we going to do here? Because again, we're looking forward to getting back to things, and it's like 6 months. That's like, oh my God, that's a very long time when you think about it. But I suppose from the day I left school, I always said I would never be. I would always be my own boss, right? I always wanted to work for myself. I wanted the freedom of being able to make my own decisions, but by doing that, you have to learn and develop and pretty much take risks. Do you know what I mean? And fail all the time and all this kind of stuff. And I've kind of, I would say I'm not a product of being brainwashed, but I don't really listen to the radio in the car. I don't really watch the news, all that kind of stuff. I instead listen to audiobooks, podcasts, all things that would help me. Do you know what I mean? Develop either just a better mindset or different skills or whatever. Because I find, and it's nothing to do with the news or anything like that, but I find sometimes there's just never anything positive on it. It's always there's tragedy, there's turmoil, there's uncertainty, and I figured, okay, I don't want that in my life, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. So during COVID, I was listening to a lot of these things, reading a lot of like books on developing businesses and stuff like that, and I just started by taking action. I knew everyone was doing the online thing, so I think I started with. I think I said a mobility challenge because I knew from a rehab perspective, everyone's going to be sitting down all day. People are going to be stiff. There's enough workouts out there, like Joe Wicks was doing them, and then everyone in Ireland was doing them. So I was never going to compete on that level. Do you know what I mean? So I thought, okay, what are my skills? My skills are injury rehabilitation, and helping people get out of pain. So I thought, okay, people sitting down all day, they're doing all this training. There's still going to be injuries. Let's launch a mobility challenge. So I created a waiting list, and I said to people, right, I'm going to do a 6-week mobility challenge. Leave your email here, sign up if you want to go in. It's completely free. All I want is for you to go on it and give me some feedback on how I can develop it even better. And I think we got something like 300 or 400 people on it, which was crazy, you know. But again, it was using, I suppose, my network, or asking people, being like, look, obviously I can't share this by myself because no one knew who I was. People still don't know who I am. So it was who do I know who can help get 10 people in? Who do I know who can get 5 people in? So I just kept asking around. I said, look, I'm going to run this mobility challenge. Do you have any friends who might want to do it? They shared it in WhatsApp groups, and people thought, geez, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm going to do that. As I said, we got 300 or 400 people. So I would be at home. I would record some videos. It might be like a 20-minute stretching session. I would do that 2 or 3 times a week, and I would email it to these people and I'd say, look, here's what I want you to do for the next 2 days. Here's what I want you to do for the next 2 days, and so on and on and on and on. And it got some good traction, and people loved it, you know. And I think it really helped. It gave me confidence then that I was able to help people. But it built almost like a little mini community. Now, it didn't grow into anything major, but it gave me the confidence to be able to say, okay, I have something that I can work towards here. And then while doing that, I spent the entirety of COVID doing my qualification in strength and conditioning, because I always looked at it from, obviously my skill set was in coaching and injury rehabilitation, but I figured I was missing the strength and conditioning at a more deeper level from that. So that was something that I needed to add in. So it would just build the package, if that makes sense. So again, I just tried to give myself something to work towards. And it helped. And then as we started to develop, that's when James and Jack were on board. I said, look, here's something that could work. I'm developing this kind of mobility thing. Then James said, well, let's make a business out of it. So then we started adding the training and the mobility together. And then we started going on and on and on. And it just spiraled from there. That was the start.
Yeah. I think once you have the right team with you, everything is way easier.
Of course.
Everyone calls about the importance of running mates. Like it's a radical change once you have, once you are surrounded by those who have similar objectives to you and are willing to work hard, and also have some network. I think that's
of course,
that's a key point. But there's one thing I want to pick on what you just mentioned. I was thinking to ask you later, but now that we mentioned, and I don't want to miss it, is what's your advice for those who are working from home, let's say most of the week, if not 5 days a week, and are seated on a desk, and they want to keep themselves fit, they want to keep themselves in shape, and they don't want to be just dragged down by being, at home all the time and sitting in front of a computer. So what would be your advice for that kind of individual?
Okay, so it's not mine. I've robbed this completely from, I think it was the Japanese that came up with this concept. I had it up there on Instagram the other day, but essentially it comes back, just move your body as best as you can. Okay, and you can apply this as easy as possible. So I work in 25-minute blocks. Okay, so I set the timer on my phone, or you can get little apps for your computer and stuff like that. And you set it for 25 minutes. And you give yourself concentrated focus on one task for that 25 minutes. Okay. As soon as that 25 minutes is up, no matter if you're finished or if you're only making a little bit of progress, you take a 5-minute break. So you're working in half an hour slots, essentially. I would repeat that 3 times. Okay. So 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off.
Just a comment. You are more OCD than me, which is very difficult. Huh?
Yeah.
I'm delighted.
I'm
delighted with that.
It's
no,
just.
I totally buy your advice, but I'm always told by others, how can you structure your days that precise, that there is not much room for deviation, and I enjoy that, and that's how I want to live my life. And when I listen to someone like you, it really resonates. It makes sense. But so I'm very pleased to hear that. But keep going, because I think it's fantastic advice for people out there. So after 3 times of 25 minutes and 5 minutes break, are you able to do a longer break, or do you carry on like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I would take a break for a half an hour. Okay. So the key is in those 5-minute blocks. If you're sitting at home every day, I would say to people, just get up and move. Okay, so walk around, go do something else, go out to the garden, get some fresh air. You're not going to, you can achieve a lot in 5 minutes, but not an awful lot either. Do you know what I mean? And it's move your body, make yourself a cup of tea, or get a glass of water or something like that. Come back, do your 3 blocks, and then within your half an hour, at the end of your 3 blocks, that's when you can move your body a bit more rigorously. So you can do some stretching if you want. You can have your lunch. You can just try and take yourself away from working mode and sitting down. Okay, and that's it's again, it's not for everyone. The 25 and 5 is not set in stone. I'm sure if you wanted to do 30 minutes of work and 10 minutes off and just do that twice, that's fine. But again, it's just try it and see. And the key to, if you're sitting down, you need to do the opposite. So you need to move, okay? Because that's moving your body is the most important. They say what motion is lotion. So it's trying to just move as best you can. And again, don't put any structure on it. Just move, and then that'll help.
Yeah. Talking of moving and going to a more personal sphere. So you moved from Cork to Dublin when you were 8.
Yes,
if I remember well. So
8 years.
other than getting your visa, and getting your papers in work.
Yes.
Did you face any other challenge as a Cork man in Dublin?
Do you know what? It was actually it was an easy enough process because I think we were so like I was so young. I was only 8, so I lived in Cork. Obviously, sorry, a big step. Like all my relatives live in Cork. My grandparents, my cousins, aunts, uncles, friends that I had when I was younger. So obviously, it's a big change. And like back then, it's where it's like in the 70s, but it was only what are we now? Nearly 20 years ago or something like that. But it was a bit of a challenge in the sense that Dublin felt so far away. But as opposed to what it is today, like you can get to Cork in 2.5 hours now, whereas back then it was like 4 hours going through all the back cities and all our towns or whatever, on the way up. But when we moved, obviously my family was there, so my parents and my sister, which was all we really needed. Do you know what I mean? Like once the 4 of us were there, everything was kind of fine because that was our little group. And then we started to go into school, making some friends and all of that kind of stuff. And I guess it was just fitting in was the big thing. Not from not from a crazy emotional level, but obviously when you're that age, if you think at 8-year-olds nowadays or 9-year-olds, they all have their little groups from they probably would play sport together and stuff. So for me, it was going to school, which is one. So I had my school friends. Then it was joining a sports club. So I joined St. Mary's Rugby Club, which was a huge thing for me. Obviously love rugby, but it was a great community amongst people, and I met people there who are still my mates today. You know, which is great. So that really kind of settled everything, and equally for family as well. Like my parents obviously got on with the people that were there as well, and my sister and stuff like that. So that's how it all developed. And I suppose to give you more context on that, through St. Mary's, the rugby club, this was at the start. So James, my business partner, has a brother called Joe. Okay, and Joe was my coach when we first moved up to Dublin. So under 8s, under 9s rugby, Joe was my coach, which was great. So there was a connection made straight away. So who knew in, as I said, 20 years or 21 years later that I would be business partners with his brother in this, you know, which was pretty cool. And then as the years progressed through that, we went from St. Mary. So I moved school. Then I was in St. Columkills in Knockline, and I moved there to St. Mary's in Rathmines because all the guys in the rugby club were going there. So that was my group. And through St. Mary's,
is the rugby ground the one in Rathmines Road? That one.
So that's the school. That's the school. The rugby club is in Templeogue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the rugby club is in Templeogue. So, but through that, went to the school, and then so that was fifth class. So I'd say it was probably about 12, maybe less, 11, 12, with the same group from the rugby club, which was nice. And then that kind of expanded even more. And I remember we were in school, graduated from junior school into senior school, which in Ireland is from 6th class into first year. Went into that, and again, rugby is huge. Like schools rugby in Leinster in particular is massive. It's like the World Cup for people. Do you know what I mean? It's to be involved in it is fantastic. So big school days out, all that kind of stuff. But during that, when I was in first year, there was the 6th years. So who were the guys that were finishing? There was one guy on the team who was like a level above everyone else. So there's always one guy in the school who's really, really good at rugby, and who's like, this guy's going to play for Leinster, this guy's going to play for Ireland, this guy's going to do really well. Like the guy who walks around, everyone's like, oh, there's your man. Look at him. He's the best rugby player in the school.
Probably is surrounded by all the women.
Oh yeah, and an all boys school. Yeah, so he did that, and that was Jack. That was Jack, my other business partner. So Jack was there, and so me looking at Jack's like the rock star. It's like, oh, wow, okay, Jack McGrath, he's the rugby player. And coincidentally, then a couple of years later, he went on to marry my sister. So it's
no way. Yeah.
So he went on to that, and
That's
like that when we were.
That's an Irish story, isn't it? Because you guys always
Yeah,
end up, uh, being business partner with best friend of your
brother.
aunt or brother or something like that.
Yeah,
Every time I talk to Irish people, that kind of situations happen, like because it's such a small community, and you
of
guys like
course.
work together that close. It's so I'm not surprised. This is really
Yeah,
an Irish context. Yeah.
but that was it. So like as I said, moving from Cork to Dublin was quite easy because we didn't know any different,
Yeah.
and we were very lucky that we had that group. Do you know what I mean, of people? And again, it's I suppose probably not off topic, but for me, it's always about keeping the group relatively small. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I was never in school. Obviously, we had a bigger group from the year in particular. There was like 60 guys in the year, which was great. But I would say I might only talk to maybe two or three of them now. Do you know what I mean? Outside of
Yeah.
because as you get older, everyone does different paths and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But there'd be two that I would talk to, two or three that I would talk to, kind of on a relatively closer basis, and that's kind of the way to do it, in my opinion, anyway. Because at least then I'd rather have a handful of friends that I can rely on a lot,
Sure.
as opposed to being the most popular in the group, but just being a number. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. It's the typical quality over quantity. We need to
Yeah.
prioritize what matters instead of just having numbers just to look good. It doesn't make any sense. You also spent some time living in London. I think you were studying there,
Yep.
if I recall well. So how was that for an Irishman to spend time
Brilliant.
in England? Brilliant. Yeah. I heard
Yes.
about the benefits of the Irish accent, so I know that's a bit
Yeah, I
sad.
see. It's like anything. You go abroad and people are like, "Oh my God, you're from Ireland. This is great." They hear an accent, even though I don't think it's that strong, but obviously to someone who doesn't hear it all the time, they obviously do. Um, they love the Irish over there. It was a cool. Do you know what? It's a great experience. I think everyone has to go away from the home for a while. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How far that is? You see a lot of people doing Australia and Dubai and stuff these days. London is a good one, but even going from one county to another makes a big difference. Like my fiance
Yes.
Mary is from Monaghan, so that's kind of more north in Ireland, and she's moved from there to go to college in Dublin. Obviously, before she's not in college now, she's working. But she went from Monaghan to Dublin, which is equally a big jump. Do you know what I mean? So, but again, I think it's kind of a part of growing older and learning and getting experience,
Yeah.
trying different cultures, and yeah. So I went to London. I was in Twickenham, so keeping it somewhat within the rugby theme because that's where they play their games. Went to Twickenham, and that's where I studied all my specialties. So I did a master's in sports injury rehabilitation, and it was the best. It was the best kind of 2 or 3 years of experience that I could have asked for.
Yeah, that's great when you go out there and you make a lot out of it and you bring it home or wherever you want to settle. Yeah, I think that's something that I as an expat, like I'm abroad for 17 years. I highly recommend. You don't need to spend that long as me, but I think it's key. I recommend. I not only recommend, I encourage everyone to spend at least a year in another country, or at least in another country. It's something that will make your life way bigger in the sense that you can perceive things that you were not able to if you would stay in the place where you were born and surrounded by the same folks all the time. So 100%. But let me go back to the fitness and advice and that kind of stuff. And there is this $1 million question: what matters most? And we are not on the rapid fire questions yet, right? But just so you know, we'll get there. I know you're very excited for that. At least as excited as I am. What matters most, diet or exercise?
Can I say neither?
That's a tricky one. Yeah. Neither.
No, I would say if you're looking at the two, well, it's kind of a tricky one because again, everyone wants one or the other. Do you know what I mean? They think, oh, I would argue the most important thing is consistency, and it's so easy. Like, listen, I'm blue in the face from hearing people talking about it. Everyone you talk to is like, oh, be consistent, like do this, do that. I would say be as consistent as you can be on both areas. Okay, so don't improve your diet and your nutrition 100%. Even diet's a bad word because I think people are looking at diet and they think, oh, I got to lose weight. Your nutrition, so how you eat, okay? Be consistent in making that a little bit better. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't need to overhaul it, but just eat a little bit better, pick better food choices, and do that consistently. That has a bigger impact in terms of losing a bit of weight and body composition. Okay, exercise, apply the same principles. Just move your body a little bit more, because by doing that, then you get healthier, you get stronger, you improve your heart health, all of that kind of stuff. So take the two of them, apply the kind of the 1% better every day rule, and just consistently try to make better choices in both areas, and just do that over a long period of time, and everything will work from there. As I said, don't get too bogged down in trying to achieve a result in a certain amount of time. Obviously use that as your direction, but start first and then you can always ramp it up depending on what your goal is.
Yeah. Well, 100% agree. Like it's you cannot be too obsessed about eating well or exercise. You just need to improve as you put the effort and see the results, getting the positive emotion of seeing the impact of what you are doing, and continue. And at some point, it will just become everyday life, and there's not much effort to put because it's just the way it is. It's like waking up and go to the toilet. You just do it because it's your body telling you to do that, and you cannot avoid. So once it's a norm, it's not a matter of discipline. It's just something spontaneous. I think it's building that person. It's about building that, and I think the beginning it's what is tricky for people. How to start, because once you are on it, it's just a everyday life. And now you are very much into sauna. Well, let's not make a secret of it. We bump into each other.
We both are
2 times a week.
yeah.
In the gym, and so I got to know that from a personal experience. So you are very much into that. So what are the real benefits of sauna in your point of view?
Well, for me, it's funny. Saunas again have become really popular in the last year, kind of 16 months or whatever it is. Everyone there's always a sauna by the beach now that people go to, and they do their hot and cold therapy and stuff like that. And they all have different benefits in it. And they say, look, it improves your cardiovascular health, your kind of, I suppose, mental health, all these kind of things. But for me, it's very simple. James sent me a video previously, and I think it was Andrew Huberman, or someone similar like that. And they basically said, if you go, it was either Andrew Huberman or Tony Robbins, one or the other, but it was basically saying if you do 20 minutes 4 times a week in the sauna between 80 and 90 degrees Celsius, okay, the risk of mortality is reduced, and the risk of long-term diseases is reduced. Okay, now the science behind that, I'm not sure. Okay, I haven't read into any of the scientific papers or anything like that. But like anything in life, right? There's the scientific literature behind all of these kind of things where they say, oh, you have to do this. If you do X, you'll get Y results. They're mad for it. So the scientists will love that. And I say, that's great. It's a really good starting point. But let's apply it in a practical sense as well. So even if it's placebo, right? And even if there's no benefit, internally I still feel like there is a benefit, because by doing that, I feel great after it. Do you know what I mean? And most people who do that, they feel great. It's like going into the sea for a cold plunge. Everyone hates getting into the cold water. It's like eventually you get used to it, but the first time you do it, you think, this is the coldest thing I've ever been in my entire life. But then you come out of it and you get changed and you're warm and you think that was the best thing ever. Do you know what I mean? So even if there's, let's say, all the science is wrong and there's nothing right with it, even that own internal feeling of feeling great after it, that's a benefit in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why I do it.
100%. Like if you're gonna feel better after you do it, why avoid it if you already know that there will be a gain or something positive out of it. And you mentioned the cold showers, which are very trendy these days, and that's something that personally I didn't buy it yet. I'm not against. I think it's a it's a practice like any other. People are into that. Yeah, it's their lives. It's their time.
Yes.
They can do whatever they want. I just didn't get the appeal, though I'm thinking about. What's your view on cold showers?
I would do them, but again, it depends. So Wim Hof was the main man for the cold, the Iceman as they call him, was the main leader of the cold kind of plunges and stuff. And people thought, got to do this for, like, he's crazy. I think he goes in it for like an hour or something like that, which is mental. So there's loads of different protocols that people can follow. You can go in for a minute, you can go in for 2 minutes, you can do a cold shower, you can do whatever. But I suppose the most practical thing is build your tolerance. It's like everything. Don't just because you see something online, don't mean you have to go into cold for 5 minutes and then get hypothermia. Do you know what I mean? Start by 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and then just build and build and build and build. Because again, it's again, you're getting the benefit from it. I did my thesis on or dissertation over in the UK on, I suppose, ice and cold therapy and how it can help with pain, inflammation, injury recovery, and so on. And we compared two different devices, a little bit off piste again, but might give some more insight into the cold. One was, those compression wraps that you get, and you might put an ice pack around it and tie it up around your knee, and you might say, okay, how much cold is that actually delivering into the body and the joints and the muscles and stuff. And then we did a different device, which was a lot more expensive, which was a compression sleeve, but you'd had an ice bucket, you attach it onto that, and it would cycle the cold water through it. So one was direct with an ice pack, the other one was with ice, and it was circulating the cold water. And effectively, it found there was no difference between the two. So ice, again, sometimes can be one of these things that people look at and they think, oh, it's really cool, but it might just be cool. You might not get any major physical benefits. But again, it goes back to the placebo of, I feel great. I've done a task. It's like you see these people like David Goggins and all these kind of motivational speakers and stuff doing it. I think it's more from a mindset perspective as opposed to a physical side of things, because again, think of how, like, if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you have is a cold shower, freezing cold shower. Nobody wants to get into a cold shower first thing in the morning.
Exactly.
Like you've just come from a hot bed. You don't want to go into a cold shower. But if it's the first thing you do and you feel, let's say you're in there for a minute and you think, okay, that was a really hard thing to do, but I did it.
Yeah.
What could be harder than that in the day?
Yeah. That's
so
exactly
it
what I
kind
want
of
to say.
sets you up.
You can build yourself like a monster by starting the day achieving a tough task. To me,
so it's like, okay,
as you know, I go to the gym
starting
at
the
6
day.
a.m. Yeah, I go to the gym at 6 a.m. And it's something that I started like 2 years ago. And when I come back home, it's already done. So I don't need to think about that once I finish with my work. No, it's already done. And then I have that breakfast that I have every day. It's almost always the same. So my body is craving for that food because it's like a reward that I get from being in the gym at 6 a.m., being staying there for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So I get that reward, and then I feel very well. Wow, I think this day is going to work out pretty okay because I already achieved the gym objective. I got the breakfast I was looking forward to, and I'm all satisfied. I'm all smiling. Where the majority of people are still waking up and grabbing their coffee and thinking, okay, here's another day. How I'm going to survive till the evening, and I'm all up. So I think it's what you said is this building this discipline of doing things that you don't necessarily want, but when you are used to that, then whatever happens along the day is just okay. Here's another thing I need to face, and it won't be as major as I would thought. And you are
it's very funny. It's very funny on that. It's you've nailed it in the sense that it's the first thing that you do, right? But it's I like it. This is not a sales plug, by the way, but I'll inform it. But I liken it to building momentum.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's if that's the first thing you do, you build on it. So you kind of level up on each thing. So you say, okay, I've done my call shower, great. Like you said there, have your breakfast, great. That's 2 tasks done before 9 o'clock. Next thing, call, third thing, fourth thing, fifth thing, and you're building momentum. And as you get momentum, then it really snowballs. It's like what I said about the
Mhm.
business at the start. It's you build momentum and you learn as you go, and you don't be afraid to fail and make mistakes. And there's no perfect journey. Do you know what I mean? It's very much
Yeah.
kind of figuring out, okay, that worked, that didn't work. Why did that not work? How can I do it better? Then you make the change, okay, and you apply the same principle. You say, well, did I learn anything from it? Oh, I can make this better, and then go.
Mm.
But the reason I said this is not a sales plug is because actually another thing I've developed on the side is a little journal, a diary, and I've called it
Mm.
the momentum journal. So it's only
I
coming out
didn't know that.
no, listen, I've only just finished it. So
Sorry, I didn't
it's
put it in the intro. If I knew it, I would have highlighted.
no,
But
no, no. It's
I
only
can put a
it's only
link
it's
in the
only
description in the end.
do. It's only a small thing, but it's I call it the momentum journal because
Mm.
it's about building momentum, right? So at the start of every month, there's this thing, and I spoke to this I think about before. So I call it the wheel of life, where you rate your different areas of life out of 10. 0 being not great, 10 being the best it could possibly be, and you look at these areas, you give them their rating, and you try to create a circle. Okay,
Yeah.
and normally what happens the first time you do this is you find there's a couple of things off balance. Okay, and if you were to look at a wheel and say you are rolling the wheel of a car, it will only move when everything is balanced. Okay, if there's any cogs in the wheel, it will roll and then it will get stuck. So you can't build momentum on that.
Yeah.
So the whole purpose behind this is to analyze where you can get better, and then on a daily basis, again, not writing down too much detail, but how productive was I out of 10? What are the key areas that did well? I did today. It could be health, it could be relationships, career, whatever. What am I going to focus on tomorrow? And then there's a small little area for like your thoughts about, okay, review your day. And you do
Yeah.
this every day. And then at the end of the month, you do a monthly review. And you might look at it and you might say, okay, if I was to look at my productivity level from 0 to 10, if I was to add them all up and divide them by 30, what's the average that I got? 7 out of 10. Okay, great. What went well this month? Done. What could be better next month? Done. Write all that stuff down, and then you do your wheel of life again, and you look at it and you say, okay, so I wanted to focus more on my career. That's now gone from a 6 to an 8. So you're building out this balance as you go through. So that's just something I've worked on. As I said, you wouldn't have known about it because I'm only telling you about it now. But
It's
it's
public now.
something that
After this podcast, it's gonna be
yeah,
everyone's
I think it's
knowledge.
something that might help. You know,
Yeah,
it
for
might
sure,
help.
for
And
sure.
again, it goes back to the affirmations. It goes back to the journaling. It's
Mm.
not. Everyone's. We live in a world nowadays where we just want people's strategies for doing things. Where we're like,
Yes.
okay, let's say lose weight. Okay, what's the strategy to lose weight, and can I just do it now? Right? Or
Mhm.
if you want to develop a business, okay, what's the strategy of the best CEO in the world, and I'll just
Mhm.
apply that to my life and get the same result. It's
Yeah.
never that simple. You have to
Yeah.
kind of develop your own one as well, you know?
And also having mentors. So, who are your figures that you look up from those that are, let's say, common knowledge of the people out there, let's say, figures of the internet? Is there, you mentioned David Goggins, you mentioned Alex
Yep.
Hormozy. So who
Yep.
are like the main figures for you when it comes to learning and applying that on your daily life? And what are you getting out of following those people?
So I think there's two sides to it. One, I think it's important to have an in-person mentor, um, because you can actually have these conversations with people. And then two, I guess it's who you're learning from outside of it. So that could be the Hubermans of the world or the Hermoses and all these kind of people. So from an in-person perspective, my number one mentor is James. Okay, he's been Jesus, I can't. There's not enough words to describe how helpful he's been for me in terms of my mindset and going after things. And do you know what? It's you can learn from a mentor, but the biggest thing that he's given me is confidence to believe that I can actually do it, right? Or do
Which
something
is a
that I want,
lot.
which is a lot. Do you know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of things that I do that he's like, geez, technically this is miles ahead of anything that that I would have been able to do. But he's always been the person to be like, why can't you do it? If I've ever had any doubts or anything like that.
Mhm.
So he's been a great springboard from that. My second one in person will be my clients. And I mean that in a nice way, because a lot of the people I would work with on a face-to-face basis would be CEOs, or would be kind of high achievers in their own life, or business owners, or anything. So I don't see it as a chore to be like, oh, I've got to put these people through a training session today or whatever. It's a learning opportunity. So I've become very friendly with them, and we have that personal relationship where I can ask them questions, they ask me questions, and we're learning. So it's almost like a learning session, but the fitness is the main part, which is great. So they've been a huge help. But sorry, going to your point of online, David Goggins would be one that I would listen to all the time from a I suppose a driven perspective, a mentality perspective. Just someone who really just says, look, even if your back is against the wall, you just got to do it. Do you know what I mean? No matter how hard it is, you just got to do it and keep going and keep going. Now, what I do find is listening to these people, it's like on podcasts. If I did 100 podcasts, I'd be saying the same thing. So it gets to the point where it's like, oh, geez, okay, I can only listen to that person for such a long period of time. So he would be one. Tony Robbins, I would listen a lot to, and read some of his books. Alex Hormozy is very good in terms of developing kind of say like sales strategies and developing a business and stuff like that. It's just people can put these things in practical perspectives. And then I would look at, I suppose, people from outside. I might not listen to them, but I would say, okay, who would I like to model my life off, or who would I like to again, if I'm older, who would I like to resonate with most? And I'm a huge sports fan. So one person that I would look up to a lot would be Jurgen Klopp from Liverpool. In the sense that just obviously he's one of the best managers, if not the best manager in the world. But I would look at him from just a general way of how he conducts himself. If things go wrong, it's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? Or how he can connect people around him to help him. So again, like that with the backroom staff in Liverpool and stuff, it's okay.
He's very down to earth, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'd like to be like. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be someone who sits there and tells people it's my way or the highway. It's not. It's okay. Let's see how we can do this, but do it together and get a good outcome from it. You know, and it's I suppose a diversity side of it makes a huge difference. But just his general demeanor is something that I would like to try and model, or I'm trying to model. And just being that person that people can connect with. So like even the classes here in Halley and stuff in the mornings, I might not be the best person to deliver the class. That's why we've got Aoife, because she's very good at that. But what I'm very good at is making light of the session, in the sense that the community we're growing, it's when they come in, it's saying hi, how are you, having a laugh, having a joke, and making people get rid of the intimidation factor of being in a gym. And being more comfortable and actually enjoying the experience. So they want to come back. And when you say to people, oh, okay, we're doing another session, they want to be there. So it's building that kind of group behind you, you know?
That leads to something I want to ask you before we get into the rapid fire questions. And yes. I have to assume I'm very looking forward to that. I already mentioned that 2 or 3 times.
They must be very good.
But before we get into that, I have one last question. It's about communication, how to get people together and all that. But it's also related to lifestyle. So I know you barely drink alcohol, so you have a glass of wine from time to time, let's say, specific for occasion. But you know, we live in Ireland, and drinking is a huge part of Irish culture. Probably it's not as big as it was in the past, at least that's my understanding, but it's still there when it comes to the socials. So what's your view on drinking?
I've nothing against it, really, to be honest with you. I don't. Me not drinking is a personal choice. If people, I'm well aware that people have lives where they work so hard Monday to Friday, and they want to go out with their friends on a Friday night to the pub and have a couple of drinks. And that's just their life. And if that's what they do, it makes them happy, perfect. For me personally, because I wake so early, I very rarely have the time to go out in the evenings, and equally, I just don't like the feeling that it gives me at the end. So like the hangover feeling, or kind of feeling like I'm too drunk or running around the place like a lunatic or anything like that. Um, so that's
I don't
because
know
I'm
what is
so
that.
focused on yeah. But because I'm so focused on health, and I always feel, look, we have to lead by example. Okay, now just
Mm.
because I don't drink doesn't mean that my clients don't have to drink. They can have drinks if they want. There's no problem. But it's just giving them the education about that. But ultimately, it's my views on it are, I think everyone, if you want to, you can, but I just think people need to do it in moderation. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it's kind of taking stock of why. I think if you understand why you're doing it, that's the most
Yes.
important thing. So the reason I
Yes.
don't is because I exercise. The reason some people do is because they want to socialize. That's fine. Or like you see people, Ireland again. There's a bit of a cost of living crisis that people are struggling with money, and that's, I'm not saying work harder, make more money, because in some instances you can't. And I understand and I completely get that people might have some alcohol to help with dealing with that or whatever it is. But I just say, look, if there is, maybe cut back, because then you can save money on something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And take that money and apply it to something else. Do you know? So it's I think it goes back to the point of, if you understand clearly why you're doing it
Yeah.
or not doing it, that's the most important thing. In my view, it's a problem when you don't understand that and you've no control over it.
Yeah.
So I
But
guess
that
it comes
applies to
back to
many
just
things.
once
I
you
think
control.
not only drinking. If you don't know what you are doing, it's always an issue, whether it's drinking
Yeah,
or the kind of job you are uh, dedicating your life to. Uh, you need this degree of awareness, and if you mix that with alcohol, it's very dangerous, because alcohol sometimes
yeah,
can take you out of your mind and can make you decisions that you might regret once you are conscious of what's happening. So, and also
yeah,
understanding the cost of drinking. You mentioned the financials. That's one. Another one is the time you spend and the repercussions for the day after. So when I drink, I don't drink as often as I did in the past. I think it's also part of growing up. But I'm
mhm,
always aware. Okay, if I'm drinking this much, that means I can do this less tomorrow, and I'm okay
yeah,
with that.
yeah,
It's very rare that I feel bad about it the day after, because I decided to cross the line. So that means there are a couple of things I won't be able to do the day after. And it's part of my planning. Okay, I'm out that Friday. That means by Saturday will be reduced to 70% of the things I'll be able to if I won't be drinking. And that's fine. It was my
amazing.
choice. And it's 100% my decision. So I think it's okay. Of course, sometimes I regret maybe have one more pint or two more pints, but it's very rare that I feel terrible about the day before,
Yeah,
which I know many people do, and same happened to me in the past. Yeah. So okay, let's start the rapid fire questions. We're already
here we go.
crossing 1 hour.
The moment of truth.
The amount of truth. So the first one I want to ask you is football or rugby? Football and
Oh,
soccer. Yeah.
yeah. Rugby.
Rugby. Yeah. I'm not kicking you out of the podcast. I thought about it
Yes, yeah.
after this
No, it's
answer.
a. Do you know what? It's a tough one, but I think I grew up wanting to be a rugby player, and my
Yeah.
dad works in rugby. Jack's a rugby player. It's been my life. Do you know what I mean? I'm a huge Munster rugby fan. So although it might be a slightly slower sport or might not be as less exciting for people, um,
Mm.
yeah, rugby for me is definitely number one.
Okay. Second one is early morning exercise or evening workout.
Early morning, 100%. I always find in the evenings, if I get, let's say if I get stressed, or if I try to, if it impacts, like later in the day, it's just not going to get done. The morning, it's
Mm.
much easier to do.
Yeah, 100% agree. Algarve or Anfield?
Oh, good question. Do you know what? Algarve. 100%. And the reason being is, like, if you've ever stepped foot in Anfield, it's an amazing stadium. The experience of it is absolutely amazing. Absolutely love it. But Algarve is home away from home, so it's very hard to go against it.
You are fine. I would go for Anfield, just for the audience to know. I'm
Yeah.
not a Liverpool fan, and I'm Portuguese myself. Actually, probably I think we spoke about it. You've been in Algarve more times than me. I was in Algarve 3 or 4 times.
Yes,
I'm
it
sure
must
you were
be
like 10,
it must be
15.
about
So
18 years now or something, 18, 19 years.
yes, and you are younger than me, so that makes the difference even more huge, you know.
Yes.
Cup of coffee or cup of tea?
Oh, coffee. I don't. Again, I'm like not an anti-Irish person here, but I just can't drink tea. Do you know what I mean?
You don't drink tea? I didn't know that.
No, I would, like, if I was given a cup of tea, I'd drink it. But if coffee for me is life. But now I started drinking decaf coffee, so decaf all the way.
Why did you start drinking decaf? What's the
I'll give you
benefit of decaf?
a quick. There's no benefit. It's just I was driving the car one day and I had what was it? I think it was 6 or 7 flat whites in the day. I didn't realize there were 2 shots at the time, so 14 shots of coffee, and I had to admit myself to the A&E because I was getting heart palpitations. So I thought I was dying, which I wasn't. So I would have like, say, two or three normal coffees, and then I just drink decaf for the rest of the day. But it was, as I said, my fiance Mary, her mother is a big decaf coffee drinker, so we always get the decaf coffee from Lidl, which tastes really nice. So that would be for me.
Okay, that's good to know. Maybe I'm going to reach out to Lidl to sponsor this podcast. After this comment, I might have them in. Yeah, we never know.
Yes.
Next one: Cork or Dublin?
Cork.
Good man.
Cork. I love the people in my community, our friends and all that kind of stuff in Dublin, 100%. But Cork's my home. Everyone asks me, where are you from? I say Cork, and then the next thing I get is, you don't sound like you're from Cork. And I said, just because it doesn't sound like I'm there. But the biggest thing, and you know what, the funniest thing well, it's not even funny. Dad always said to me when we were growing up, never forget where you came from. And for me, that's Cork. So that's why it's always number one.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to well-known figures. David Goggins or Alex Hormozi?
Goggins. David Goggins. That man is a machine.
Okay. Now to figures. I'm not sure if you like them or not, but we will see when you answer. Conor McGregor or Thierry Henry?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? I that's actually a difficult question, and I'll tell you why. Because
that's the objective of the rapid fire questions.
Yeah. I'm going to say Thierry Henry for that one, okay? Because I think he was an incredible football player. I don't think everyone talks about Ronaldo and Messi. I think Henry was just class. Class footballer, so elegant. It seems like a decent guy and just has a persona about him, which is great. But what I will tell you is, I actually really liked Conor McGregor at the start. Okay, and by the start I mean his early years in developing, because I love the story of coming from nothing, putting your mind towards something and achieving what he did. What he achieved is absolutely incredible. But it's just, I suppose, in the last couple of years, and again, I don't know what he does or anything like that, but obviously just doesn't get a bit of the right publicity and all that kind of stuff. And I just feel it's a bit of a shame, because his story is so powerful that can really help people, and people do get kind of energy from that. And even me personally, like, I get up to watch his fights and everything. I thought, geez, look at this Irish fella here going off and doing really well. And that's such an inspiring story. So that's why it's kind of a bit mixed, but I'd have to go with Thierry Henry.
Okay, that's for Arsenal fans' satisfaction.
Yes, it keeps them all head. What a player, though. What a football.
Yeah. Last one. Sauna or sex?
Sorry, sauna or sex?
Yes. You
geez,
can
I'll say
do one in life. Yeah.
I'll say sauna. in case my mother watches this.
Just for the sake of the mother.
Yeah. Keep them all happy.
That's some sauna endorsement. Huh? I think
I'll
now
tell
you
you.
are
I think
above.
in fairness,
upper.
they're brilliant. They are brilliant. I've been recommending them to people a lot. Do you know what I mean? Even you see people at home with like infrared saunas and stuff like that, and it's just I think the heat helps people. Like even quick story. My nan, who is 91 years of age, loads of pains and aches and stuff in general. That's what happens when you're that age, arthritis and stuff. Wants to go to Portugal every year to the Algarve, gets the heat, feels unbelievable when she's over there. So it just shows the power of it, you know.
Yeah. Look, I think this was a very powerful conversation. We talked to plenty of topics. I'm very sure that the audience can take away plenty from this conversation, and I hope your business will keep going up. I don't see any reason not to. I think you have the right mindset, skills, and they are surrounded by the proper audience for that. So I want to wish you all the best and thank you for being here. I think we could be here for the rest of the weekend, but we have plenty of things on the list.
Yes, Liverpool are playing this at 3:00
against Forest, isn't it?
Nottingham Forest. Yeah. So
Forest, yeah.
Liverpool. Yeah, fingers crossed. We need to. Darwin Núñez is back, so we're doing okay.
Yeah, I'm confident that you can win the title. Yeah.
We'll see. But no, it's great, and thank you for having me. Obviously being you're on a similar journey with developing the podcast and the business and stuff like that as well. So that takes a bit of credit too, in the sense that you know firsthand how difficult it is to do all these things. But like that, I think in the intro, this is your 7th episode. But like that, it'll be nice when for your own sake, when you look back and you're at 50 and 100 and 150 and 200 and so on, and you can say, all of the things you learned throughout of it and how it's spiraled out. And I don't know, you even mentioned there like laughing, getting Lidl as a sponsor and stuff like that. But that's how these things develop. And I always say to people, it's one conversation. Do you know what I mean? But one conversation can lead into so much. Do you know? So
yes.
For your own sake, keep going. It's good. And as I said at the start, it's always tough. You get people listening, and you always want more. Everyone wants more, but you'll always be grateful for the times where you kicked off at the start and developed it from there. So yeah, keep going with it.
Thanks for this, and I'm pretty sure this episode will be part of a fantastic journey. I think it was also a lesson for myself. There are things you went through that I will implement in my own ventures. They are not related to fitness, but they are related to life. So in the end, they're all part of the same basket. So if folks out there are trying to build, I don't know, a shop, a flower shop, they can also implement some of the things you mentioned. So this is not related to a sector or two. This is way broader than it seems. So I think people can use that for their own results and objectives. So again, thanks for this.
Absolutely.
And I'll see you around the sauna for sure.
I'll see you or in the Algarve, one or the other.
On the Algarve, yeah. My 4th time, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye.